My name's Julie Driver. I've been teaching Pilates for 22 years, which I can't believe it's been that long. During that time, I have had twins. I've managed to smash up my leg, have to learn to walk again, rehabbed from that. And then 7 months ago, I managed with the same leg to completely shatter my calcaneus. And I'm recovering from that at the moment. So I'm very lucky that I have my own Pilates studio at home, because it means that I am able to do some rehab. And I specialize in working with equestrians.
Nice. Fun.
Very fun.
Anything in particular? Right? Is it dressage, or is it what kind or sort?
Not particularly any aspects of equestrianism. I work with a 3-day eventing team, which a 3-day event, if anybody is not familiar with that, is probably the most brutal of all the equestrian sports and most skillful, because they do cross country, which is incredibly difficult. Then they do dressage, and then they do show jumping. So it encompasses all three. So they're like the triathletes, the heptathletes of the equestrian world. Yeah.
Listen, if you've never even been on a horse, it's funny because it looks like you just jump on the horse and everything is just do, and you and the horse are just vibing. And that's lies. That is like cinematic garbage, because riding a horse it's something.
It really, really is.
Wow. Cinematic garbage. My first time riding a horse was in high school, and I had a buddy who was working at a camp, which is like maybe an hour away from here. So we went up to visit him, and they said, well, let's go ride these horses. So we get on our horses, and then we kind of just trot out to the field, and he turns to me and was like, want to race? I was like, what? Yeah, let's do it. And like literally it was like through the countryside, top speed. And that was my first time on a horse, and it was super fun, the best thing ever. And then later took my kids on a horseback ride thing, and it was like with a helmet on a trail walking, and I was like yawning the whole time. So I was like jaded by this cinematic experience, my first time on a horse ever. And then it went down.
I think people have this image of like beaches and sunsets and these beautiful Arabian horses just, in the wash, just, galloping along, and it's not like that. But all the time.
You get wet, you get muddy, your jeans are ruined because the saddle is oiled and nobody warned you about that. I mean, it's not what it sounds like. I'm just saying.
And then your husband tells you stink.
Oh, for sure. I remember we were on our honeymoon when we did it, and I just remember being like, ew, leave those clothes out on the balcony. Do not bring them in. So we literally changed in the hallway.
You see, the thing I have though, Misty, I have this, I'm going to share this with you, is I have this real sort of secret passion. One of my favorite smells is the smell of a warm saddle. The underneath, when you take the saddle off the horse, you smell the bottom of the saddle that's been on their back. That if they could bottle that into perfume, I'd buy it and wear it. There's no telling, is there?
I don't really know what to say about that, but I have a really sensitive sniffer.
So if that was a cologne.
Yeah, I should get some Tom.
Well, if you do bottle this,
get it for Tom.
Maybe don't send it to me, but I will support your endeavor.
Thank you.
No matter what.
Thanks.
That's too funny. So now you've tied this into like your niche for Pilates. Like how did that come about? Like the marriage of the two?
I'd had horses as a kid and had ridden. And then when I moved to London, London's so flipping expensive. I could barely afford my house and the electric and food. So there was no way I could afford a horse. So I didn't do it. I was like, you know what, if I can't afford to have my own horse, I'm just not going to do it anymore. And then my husband will tell you that I had a very early midlife crisis and suddenly went, shit, I need to be around horses. So I started riding again. And that's when I had my skiing accident, had to learn to walk again. And but what happened was I had a riding lesson, and I was on this huge 18-hand horse, which is a really, really big horse.
Yes.
And we were riding in the arena, and it was a dressage horse, and it was very, very stiff on its right-hand side. So we were doing lots of work and movements to supple the horse up. And the very next day when I woke up, from my middle back to my neck, I couldn't move. I was completely locked. I was rigid. So I was literally spending the day like this. So I went to see my physio, who did the whole pop, pop, pop up the spine, and I was fine. But I got a phone call about a week later saying, from the physio saying, I've got a client who's a horse rider who had the exact same injury as you. She's fine, but she'd like to see a Pilates teacher who understands horses. Would you do a home visit? So I went to see her and we got chatting. We did the where do you ride? And she rode at the same stables as me. And then I said, well, who were you riding? And we'd ridden the same horse. So we'd had the same injury from the same horse. So it just threw up into my mind. It's like, well, is that the horse throwing the injury, or is it just completely coincidence that we have something that matches his asymmetry? And it just got me thinking, and it's fascinating. It's really fascinating.
Dressage is so interesting in itself. My first experience with it was on a 17.5 hand horse, and I'm small. So just the responsibility of managing yourself on what feels like a sentient skyscraper is tough in itself. But then like what you're saying, the way you connect to that horse when you're on it, it's kind of like you're plugged in. Oh no, you are plugged in. It's amazing, that transfer of energy and action, and just how you manage it. It's so cool. It's a neat experience, especially knowing what we know in the Pilates sphere.
They are amazing animals. Because I also then later I trained. There's a man called Monty Roberts who the book The Horse Whisperer by Richard Evans was based on Monty's life, and he's now in his mid-80s, and he has a farm in California. And I went and lived on his farm for a while, and I trained in his methods of horsemanship, and then I completed my training here in the UK. And just that way of being with them, they are such incredible creatures. They are such good teachers. They are wonderful for helping anybody who's got any kind of I used to work with a charity just before the pandemic, and we had a range of children, young adults and grown-ups who used to come and have therapy with the horses. And it's such a powerful therapy, because horses are totally non-judgmental. They take you exactly how you are. They couldn't care less if you are somewhere on the autistic scale. They just take you as you are, and seeing the healing and the learning happen was just extraordinary. Yeah. Wow. I loved doing it, and then unfortunately pandemic came and it all had to stop, but it's just started again. So I'd really like to get involved back with that, and just seeing these kids. It's
That's
great.
really nice.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, that is so nice. And like what Misty was saying about that connection of yourself to the horse, your body, what is the communication to riders when it comes down to this? Are you explaining to them where they need to be in space, or how they need to connect with their own body, or how to kind of manipulate the horse in a different way? Like what is the conversation you have to help people understand what's going on in their body that would cause that tightness that you have?
Again, it's a big horse like that, like Misty was saying, is I'm 5'8". I'm quite tall, but even for me, that is a big horse to ride. And so he was tight on one side. So when you're trying to supple a horse up, you are using yourself quite a lot as well. And also what tends to happen if they're tight on one side, and Misty will have felt this from riding a horse, is sometimes they'll lean on you. They lean into where they need a bit of support. So it's managing yourself and managing them. And that's what I think often when people think, oh, getting on a horse is just riding, it's and just get on and go, push your button like a Tiptronic car. It's not like that at all. It's much more, you have to know exactly where to put your feet, where to put your legs, where to put your hands, how to shift your weight. And
how much energy you put behind all of that too.
Yeah.
Because you can have everything in the right place, but if you're squeezing, you're not recognizing it, the horse is reacting. And if you're not aware of that, it's reacting badly.
this is it. There are so many people, and I'm responsible for this as well, where you go, well, the horse isn't doing what I asked. But it's actually, no, the horse is doing exactly what you asked it
you're
to
asking
do.
for.
You've just asked it to do something different to what you thought
Yes.
you asked it to do.
Yes.
And this is the thing, is they're not stupid, and especially little ponies. I see because my daughter's riding now, and she's doing really, really well. And she'll get off the horse and she'll say, you know, he was being really naughty today. And I was like, well, no, I think he was doing exactly what you asked him to. It's a big learning curve.
Yes. There's that Mr. Miyagi moment, right? Like there are no bad students,
It's
just
definitely
bad
a
teachers.
Mr. Miyagi moment, definitely. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Nice car reference in there too, by the
Thank
way.
you.
I saw that. Thank you. That was for me.
Oh, yeah, I prefer 1 horsepower.
So
It's
yes.
easier to manage than 4, I would think.
Lovely. Well played. Yes. Before actually I was talking with my colleague here in the studio about the fact that I was looking at your advertisement for your workshop and all those different things, and there's 2 words that stood out on the page, and this is where I wanted to kind of hang out today a little bit. Would the 2 of you say that we can break down all that we do to a foundation of simply understanding and confidence? Those 2 words as our launch pad for everything else.
Do you mean as a teacher or to give the client?
To give the client.
I think attention is important.
Okay.
Because
listening.
I don't think it's because you can understand something from your point of view, but not necessarily get it from the other side. So you have to be attentive and you have to listen in order to be able to translate that into giving them back what they want and or need, because they're not always the same thing.
Yes, absolutely. I was looking at the word understanding from the perspective of giving them an understanding, giving them, like what we were just talking about a minute ago, understanding what input we're giving to the horse, and understanding of what's needed in their body, or whatever your niche is. For those who are watching, whatever your specialty is in terms of your people, giving them the understanding in their own body, what's happening, how to move, all those different things. And then the other part of it is confidence. Like now, that confidence with what they now know to be able to work out on their own, not get injured next time they're doing their own thing, that confidence to go out into their sport or their life, or whatever it is. Like I was just kind of just like breaking down the fact that those are kind of the words that we would use to entice someone that this is what they need. Understanding of X, Y, and Z, and confidence to do X, Y, and Z.
There is my equestrian mentor, Monty Roberts. He has a wonderful, wonderful quote, which is, "There's no such thing as teaching, only learning." And I think that our job as teachers is to facilitate someone else's learning, and that includes their understanding and their confidence to move forward with that understanding. And then one of the other things that he says is that if all learning is on a scale of 1 to 10, the most important learning is that 0 to 1. And I think it's true, is because if they don't get that 0 to 1, the rest of it's screwed. They might be at number 8, but that foundation won't be there. So those are the 2 things that when I think of my job, it's to facilitate someone else's learning. That's kind of where I sit, is that I'm trying to facilitate their understanding, because that will build their confidence.
100%.
Love that.
How do you?
That's really good,
Julie, I'd love to know, when you're working with equestrians, are these people that are coming to you because they are looking to up-level their skill? Do they recognize, say, a problem in their bodies like what you recognized with the horse? Or is it something that, maybe they don't have the buy-in because they don't necessarily understand how Pilates and equestrianness meet?
Yeah.
And how do you navigate that?
I was
Yes,
struggling with that word too.
just couldn't come up with
It's,
it.
you know what, it's so so in the 22 years since I've been teaching, it's sort of been doing this, that people are equestrians and starting to learn about Pilates, and it's just suddenly it's hitting that that moment where it's really, really about to blossom in the way that Pilates itself did. You know, so I've been talking about this for a while, but what's happening now is you've got vets and spinal equestrian surgeons seeing the impact of riding on horses, and also more importantly doing research into it. There's a lot of research now showing that an asymmetrical rider, the impact that they actually have on their horse, and it's really, really quite astounding. So when you're faced with that kind of evidence, and you've got amazing, but if anybody out there is interested in equestrianism, if you look at Centaur Biomechanics, their work is extraordinary, and they're showing now that what they did, this is a long answer to your short question, but what they did was they shortened a rider's stirrup by about an inch, which, so it's one hole, about an inch, and they found that the forces on the horse's fetlocks, on their joints in the opposite side, the ground reaction forces were so much increased that it really was to the detriment of the horse. And that's just from moving a stirrup 1 inch. So if you imagine if your feet are 1 inch, how that's going to translate up your body into your hips, your pelvis. So when you're a rider and you're seeing this research, and you've got these people saying, go and do Pilates, go and do yoga, go and do Tai Chi, just go and do something that's going to help you be a better rider for your horse, and you will then have less vet bills, less equine osteopathy bills. And this is the thing, is equestrians will spend a shitload of money on their horses, but they don't spend anything on themselves and their own welfare. So if you can actually make them go, you know what, if you spend a little bit of time, because equestrians tend to be time poor, yeah, because looking after horses is like looking after kids, is really, really time consuming. So when I work with my equestrians, we do small amounts. I don't do an hour-long class with them, and their homework tends to be 10 minutes. Just do this, and that's where because it's the as we know, it's the consistency, the persistency that builds in them. So I think, have I answered your question?
Yeah, kind of. And I think that I feel like once they get into it, because they're so committed to their horse and their horse love, I've found that the equestrians that I've worked with are really great students. They do their homework. They want to know more, because the minute you tell them that it's better for their horse, it's like, oh, whatever. I mean, tell me what to do. Do I change my diet? Do I ride naked? Whatever it is, they're in it.
And I also go into the arena with them as well and watch them ride. And I spent a day at a riding school last week, and I was actually working with the instructors. So we spent some classroom time, and then we went into the arena, and it's just fascinating. And I think this is it, is when people actually see how the tiniest of change can have such a big impact on themselves and their horse's way of going. It's just like, why wouldn't you do it? And the equestrian team that I work with, I see them every Monday night. And one of the guys, he's so lovely, and I said to him, you know, is this really helping you? And he was really frank with me, and he went, if it wasn't helping, I wouldn't be here.
True.
You know, and it's true, because they're, you know, it's 45 minutes at the end of a very long day, when probably what they want to do is have a beer and chill out. But they come and they do the work, and it makes a difference.
Right. I almost want to step away from the conversation just for a second. For those who are watching, if you're in the chat, can just write down what your niche is. Like in the same way Julie is talking about equestrian, if you have some other niche, something that you feel like you're really passionate about, that you're working with, and you want to, either you are working with these specific people, or you're thinking, okay, I love doing all this stuff, but my path is similar to Julie in that I've noticed that there may be a need here. I'd love to hear just in the chat if you can just write out what it is that you're focusing on, or your niche is, or your specialty is, or wherever you are in that continuum. Because I think this is a fascinating conversation for the person who is like general population, but loves working with whatever. And they're like, I can totally make a gig out of doing the thing I love the most, but I didn't know that it could be
And I
done
think
this
it's an
way, right?
important
So
discussion too, right?
curious.
Because, you know, in the Pilates community, there's always a discussion or argument about something. And, you know, the idea of niching down is always one that comes up. You know, why do we need to have Pilates for hang gliders? And why do we need to, you know, all of these things? But, you know, one,
Yeah.
I think that when you're passionate about something and you find a sector that you feel like you can improve just by making little tweaks to your own work as a teacher, then why not? Why not? I mean, and two,
Yes.
it's a long road when you've been doing this as long as we've all been doing it. So having something else that just gets the pep in your step, what's wrong with it? I say niche away, people.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I
For
totally
sure.
agree. Pilates is for everybody, but I also think that there are, for me, the reason I've gone very specifically with the equestrianism is because it's another animal. It's another animal, and our spines affect their spines, and understanding how they affect us. It's a circle, and that's why I decided to niche down. And I know that there are people out there probably who do postnatal, you know, and understanding what happens to a woman's body, you know, through pregnancy. I think that's a really important thing to understand. So yes, if a client came to me and they were pregnant, I'd help them, but I would not have as much knowledge as somebody who is really up to date and who has really niched down into the understanding of exactly what happens to a woman's body when they're pregnant, even though I've had babies.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's an important conversation, and this is why we need to work together more as a community and in our own areas, because listen, like you said, postnatal, I can help them, but is that my go to my ooh la la? Do I know so much about it that I feel like I can really help somebody that is in a very, very niched out kind of a conundrum? Maybe, maybe not, but I know that so-and-so over here can really, really help elevate them. You know, when we stay so factionalized, we can't share. And sharing doesn't cost you a client. If anything, it builds you loyalty. Those people always come back.
I would much rather have a teacher say to me, you know, you've got to like, for example, with my injury I've just had, so you know what, in fact it actually happened to me.
Oh yeah, we lost your audio there.
That I am not the specialist. They said there is a person who specializes in your injury, this is their phone number. So I have a huge amount of, even more amount of respect for this man now, because he did that for me. He could have just gone, yeah, come to me, but he didn't. And I think that's really, recognizing our own skills and our own limitations is really valuable, because it means we recognize it. It means that we appreciate other people's skills.
Right.
Yes. At a base level, even just being efficient, like I can navigate it, and it may take me 6 weeks to get them where it may take one session with someone who is really niched down to that spot. So just for sake of efficiency alone.
Sure.
In terms of helping our people.
Yeah. I mean, I know that sometimes I have free time. I don't remember when that was, but you know, back in the day, and you know, when I was a newer practitioner, I was able to take the time to suss things out and just dive into something in a way that I can't now. I would much rather, you know, share that and say, this person is an expert on whatever it is. And please go talk to them. I'll help you make the introduction so that it's easier for the client as well, because sometimes they're so wed to us, they don't want to leave. But, you know, keeping them, letting them know that it's okay. In fact, it's the best thing that they could do. It is always a positive thing, I think.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's something happened to me on the weekend too, where I saw people doing stuff like yoga for basketball kids, like yoga for ballers. So one day I decided to make Pilates for ballers. I made an Instagram page. I decided I'm just going to run hard with this, and did all this stuff. And then I forgot about it. I don't post anything on it. And years have gone by. And I was at this basketball tournament, and one of the teams that I taught pre-COVID, the guy walks by, he's like, "Hey, Pilates for ballers." So I was like,
Me?
and I was like, me? So it's funny that I say that to say that like you can run off and realize that that's not your thing and just drop it and move on to the next thing, and that's fine too. Okay, like we can just explore all these different things and just go with what works, and something's gonna stick and some things just aren't gonna stick. So that can happen.
Is the
Yeah.
page still live? Is the page still there? Do you add to it now?
It is actually.
Or have you just let it drop?
I just kind of left it.
So you're squatting.
It doesn't die. It just kind of just like
You're
sits
squatting
there.
on it, actually. I see how you are,
Yes.
Mr. Reed.
I'm squatting on it in case. Just in case. Like I'm not using it, but no one's allowed to use it. That's real. That's
Yeah,
nice.
I get it though, because with the equestrian stuff, I had a few clients that were equestrians, and there wasn't really anyone satisfying that niche in my area. And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get into this. And I did dressage for about 8 months. It's so time consuming, like you said, and I really, really liked it. But I just didn't like, it's like having a toddler who is actually smarter than you, because they can read you in ways that you don't recognize that you're projecting. So you have to spend time with the horse and get to know them and take them on walks. And that's a lot. It's kind of like a toddler that you're dating. Not that we date toddlers, but you know what I mean. There's just a lot of. Please don't date toddlers.
The analogy's
I'm putting
falling
this
apart.
out there. Everyone in Core Conversations land, don't
Right.
date toddlers. But
don't grab that.
Yeah, leave that one
by
alone.
itself, please. Like,
Yes. There's a chat. My son has been seeing a therapist because he had severe anaphylaxis. He's had it 3 times now, and he's nearly died. And so we needed him to see someone to talk to him about food. And the doctor gave the most amazing analogy of how she thinks about kids. She says they're like those thermometers that you stick in a turkey. They can take an adult's temperature and work out where that adult is at so easily. And I think horses are the same. They've got this ability to just go, who is this person? What button can I push? Just how much can I push my mummy? Like the kids have just come home and they're going to lean on that doorbell until I answer it. And I'm not.
it's so true.
Because they know I'm doing this, but they know it's going to piss me off so much. Just going,
Yeah. I would go in sometimes to the arena and I would just be, you're just in a mood and you can't even define it. You just know that you are surly. And then this horse would be surly back. And I'd be like, and 17 and a half hands. Like I didn't want to be too surly with this horse.
Yeah.
But we'd be doing our thing and she would just stop and like brace in a way that like jolted all the way up to the top of my skull.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and my trainer said, this is you. She's got an attitude problem. They gave me the horse with the biggest attitude problem there to match me. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, at the same time, it was like, oh, okay. Now, what do I do with this? If the horse is picking it up, who else in my sphere is picking it up, but not even recognizing what it is? It made me reflect upon myself also, just as a person navigating the world and as a person who teaches people.
This is what horses do. They are extraordinary teachers. And when I was on the farm doing my horsemanship training, that's what they would do. They would pair us up with a horse that would deliberately challenge you. And there was 10 of us on the course, and some of them were really hardened cowboys, and there wasn't a moment in that course where one of us wasn't crying, because we were being pushed so hard by these animals that would just, you'd be trying to load them onto a trailer, and they just plant their feet and go, I'm not getting on the trailer. And you'd have to work out how to get this ton of animal onto a trailer. They are amazing. So that horse, I bet you learnt a lot, Misty, from that horse.
Well, I did, yes. It was a lot. And then when we would go trail riding, they would put me on the horse that only had one eye. And I was like, come on. but Molly, and we'd be walking on these narrow, tight trails and going over these little bridges. But I realized they were trying to get me to chill on my dominant side, because, you know, the eye that the horse was not seeing out of was what I believe my non-dominant side.
The weaker side.
Yeah,
Wow.
no,
So we had to step
yes.
up.
So yes, 100%. I had to elevate to keep this horse from pitching us all off, pitching us off the side of the trail.
Yeah.
And, you know, again, it's not anything that they specifically told me that they were doing so I could be prepared. I had to just kind of pony up.
Nice. Like it.
Just, I couldn't help myself. It was just hanging right there. But, you know,
You're trying to slide it in for half an hour, probably.
No, Mr. Reed, it was very organic. But yeah, it just kind of happened. And again, it's lessons like that. For a person like me, I like those subtle lessons. They knew how to challenge me, and they knew what horses to give me to make me grow. It's such, I just can't recommend it enough if you're in an area to be able to do it. Even just go riding a few times and just experience what that's like, because how often do we get to connect with something in that way that's, like I said, like a plug-in, like I'm going to teach you from the inside out. You may not even be able to comprehend the lessons right now, but your body is picking it up and your nervous system is picking it up. And it's just really, really cool. I think that's why they use horses so much for trauma therapy, because it's just a different type of bond.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be interesting.
For sure. I'm sure Tammy is in the space.
It'd be interesting, Misty, if they had said to you, right, so we're going to give you this horse. It's only got one eye and it matches your less dominant side. We're going to go out some really, really narrow trails, big steep drops. Have fun. You know, what would you have done?
Listen, I can already tell you, Pilates Misty, Dance Misty would have already had 17 strategies, a plan. I would have been like, I would have had some sort of shake weight or something in my hand to try to, I just would have over dramatized it, as I am apt to do. And, you know, again, it's neat to be in that student position where you just have to shut up and learn.
Yeah. Yeah. It goes back to what we're saying about the confidence and the understanding.
Yeah.
Now that you understand why they gave you that horse, if it happened again, your confidence to ride that horse would be bigger. You would, you would be in a different place to ride that horse again.
Yes. And each time I went out, it was better. And she was old too. She was like super old. So I was, okay, are you all right? Do you need a snack? You know, like they're like, don't beat the horse. No snacks, Misty. But you know, it's just a really neat experience. I can't say enough positive about it, other than, you know, the smell was a little rough, but I learned.
Yes. Too funny. Julie, I just want to circle back to something you said. You kind of glazed over it as we got into the talk about how you found horses and all that stuff, or came back to horses.
Don't go there. That's really cruel. No.
Well, I'm going there because I like Tom.
I just got home from being down.
Ooh.
Oh, would he? No. He's such a good guy. But this is the thing. Sometimes it's crisis that brings us to that point, right? We hit this checkpoints in our lives, and that's what steers us into that place.
Yeah, well, that's actually why I ended up being a Pilates teacher. It was because my father died unexpectedly. And if that hadn't have happened, I don't think it would have pushed me into this industry at all. I don't know what. I would still be working behind the bar of the local pub where Tom and I met, and, you know, trying to be an actress. You know, so sometimes we have no idea where these things that happen to us, how they're going to change us and push us in different directions.
Right. And we're all better for it, right?
There was a movie with Oh, I can't stand her.
Gwyneth Paltrow.
Gwyneth Paltrow, sliding doors. Yes. Yes.
Wow.
See, Julie and I are like this.
Okay.
I'm getting
Yeah.
it. But
I'm realizing this.
I
Yes.
love the whole concept of it because it's so true. You know,
Yeah.
the happenstance of it all, you know, the choose your own adventure part of life, what's behind door number 3, whatever you want to call it. I always find it to be interesting. And when you think about midlife crises and where people land, so many people, I think, are having them a lot earlier nowadays. And, you know, making decisions that back in the day would have been completely verboten, but now it's like, oh, you're going to just set your whole life on fire and go and herd sheep in the wilderness for 6 months. Yeah, that's a great thing, you know. I think it's an interesting time to be alive, you know, where there is that freedom. Not to say that it's any easier than it would have been at any other time, but the acceptability helps.
Yeah, I think the last 2 years have precipitated quite a lot of this as well. I think that I know that friends of ours have come out of the 2 years very, very differently. Families have broken up, and it's I think that period of us all being stuck in our houses together and being allowed out for an hour a day, particularly here in the UK, that's what our rules were. Suddenly all these people who, you know, the dad will be out at work and the kids at school, they're all in this little sort of hothouse of, you know, pandemic, and it's threw up a lot of shit for people, and a lot of people, they've come out of it very differently and not often together.
Yeah, our friends who live in Argentina.
Yeah.
Argentina was on lockdown forever and ever and ever, and they had a 2-year-old and in an apartment, and he was used to traveling, and they were in the house for, it was a year and a half.
Yeah.
How do you not come out of that different?
Yeah.
Yes.
You're literally not the same person. One, because you have a very small child. You've aged 16 years in that year and a half just by being at home all the time. But not even being able to so much as leave your house. Like, we didn't have it that way here in the United States. Here in the States, we were still able to grocery shop and go to the liquor store and all of these other things, you know, in other countries that really locked people down. It was a life-changing event. We have nothing to complain about here in the States.
Yeah. Effective. I don't know about for you guys, but it certainly affected our children quite a lot as well. I think they, you know, homeschooling. They say that, what's the quote, that if you can't explain something to a 7-year-old, you don't understand it yourself. Well, I clearly don't understand maths. Homeschooling does not work.
What do I say? I don't count past 8, and there is a reason for that. My son doesn't even mention math to me. I start to get hives. I just don't like it. But yeah, I agree with you. I think the children are changed, and in some ways, I think that they will be more resilient for it down the road. I think in other ways, though, it's going to be hard if certain parents go back to helicopter parenting and that sort of thing. It's going to be hard for them to gain that resilience because they've lost, you know, essentially 2 years of development. The development that they get from intermingling with their peers and falling off of swing sets and all of those things.
Falling off monkey bars in the park, fracturing their heels.
Is that how you did that?
Yes. That's our segue.
Oh, no.
So we were in the park. If anyone doesn't know, my kids love this story. We're in the park, and there was this beautiful.
How old are your kids, first of all?
So they'll be 10 next week. I've got twins, so at the moment they're 9. And we went there with this beautiful big wooden children's playground, but they were in that bit that was for grown-ups, you know, with the rowing machine, and there were monkey bars, and they wanted to go on them, and I was saying to them that they're adult-sized monkey bars, they're too high for you. Look, I'll show you. Got halfway across and went to drop down, and my feet only dropped probably this far, but I felt my heel I just felt it just like pop like a grape.
Oh no!
So, yes, So yeah, don't try and impress your kids in the playground. Just do what the other parents do and sit on the bench with your iPhone.
Yes.
Impressing children is a
Yes.
fool's errand.
There
You
you
will
go.
never win. And in fact, you could potentially become the subject of ridicule.
Yeah, thanks, and I have.
I've learned the hard way.
I've never heard that phrase, a fool's errand, but I'm going to use it daily. Thank you.
Welcome. I
That
wish
was
I could
very...
say it was mine, but alas.
Another way to get a niche is to use the monkey bars and jump off of something. So what are you doing with feet now in your Pilates work?
Do you know what? I've learned a lot. I really have. I've learned the names of all the bones properly, finally.
Okay.
Show and tell, exactly. And this, I've got lots of toys now. I love toys. I've got this ball, the Naboso ball is brilliant. And this is amazing. I don't know if either of you have seen it before. It's called the Blackboard.
Okay.
And it's got the little rockers on. And this has really helped me enormously. So, and of course, the Amazing Blossom has helped me as well. And yeah, feet. There's a saying, no horse, no foot. No foot, no horse. That's the saying. No foot, no horse. Get it the right way around. No foot, no human either. At the moment for me.
Hard to get around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I couldn't imagine how hard it must be to manage that sort of thing with twins that are 10, which means that's double the energy to manage anyway, and then having to manage a business and all of that. How are you doing it?
Coffee till about 4 o'clock and then gin and tonic.
Ooh.
No, to be honest, the kids are great. My children are,
Yes.
they're great. They're very understanding because they quickly learned that things like mummy, can I have a, wasn't going to happen. So
Nice.
it made them grow up quite quickly because they learned to, basically they were looking after me, and it's really made me think about children who are carers, you know, for their parents and for their other guardians or for other siblings, because they were amazing. My daughter learned how to make cups of tea. I don't know if you can, that's my husband sneezing really loudly.
That's okay. Mine's talking really loudly. I apologize if you can hear it.
Yeah, so yeah, the kids are resilient, you know, kids are, they're pretty resilient. And you know, yeah, I'm very, very proud of my kids for the way they've helped me in the last 7 months. They have also learned
It's been amazing.
Sneak biscuits and chocolate and crisps and things because they know that I can't catch them.
My type of kids. Listen,
Yeah.
if you can't test the boundaries as a kid, how are you going to learn to do it as an adult? Start early.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm a terrible babysitter, by the way. Just letting you know.
That's, I was going to say, mental note, don't hand my kids
Listen,
to
I
Misty.
told you the
Perfect.
vampire story. It's a thing.
Yes.
What's the vampire story? I've not heard that.
So when I started babysitting, I was about 12, and I babysat the craziest kids in the neighborhood. And they had just lost their last babysitter because they locked her in a closet. And so I figured I needed to stay on top of this situation from the beginning, or else I was going to lose because I was outnumbered. So I went in on the first day. The mom's like, "Are you sure you're going to be okay?" I was like, "I got this." So the kids woke up. I was wearing my dark sunglasses, chillaxing on the couch, you know, watching TV, as a babysitter does. And they're like, "Why are you wearing your sunglasses inside, Misty?" I was like, "I can't really discuss this with you right now. You guys just aren't ready. You're just not ready for this." And they're like, "Okay." And then, you know, they wanted to go outside. And I was like, "Hold on, guys, wait a minute. I have to get something." So I went in my purse and I pulled out this candy. I think it was called Spree or something, but it was their little sour tablets. But I had taken off the wrapper so you could just see it in the the internal wrapper. And I took one and I said, "Okay, I need 5 minutes, then we can go outside." And I thought this was weird. And then we're outside running, we're playing baseball. And then I just laid down for a minute and I said, go in and get that package of tablets. And they're like, okay, what is this? And then I perked back up and they said, what's going on? You need to tell us. And I said, well, I'm going to tell you, but you can't tell anybody. I mean, your parents probably know, but they said, what? I said, listen, I'm a vampire. And, as you know, I have super strength, all of these other things. And, you just have to realize that you can't make me mad. We have to be working together because sometimes my vampiric temper will come out. We had the best summer. We had the best summer to date, the most fun babysitting I ever had, probably one of the most fun jobs I ever had. But, you just sometimes have to take control early when we're talking about kids, or else they'll run you.
Yeah. Love that story.
Yeah. Even after college.
That's a great
when
story.
I came home, they were like, you still tell people you're a vampire? I was like, you still believe me? But it was great fun. And, they were great for every babysitter after me too. So it's good stuff.
You see, they understood. They got it. Going back to the confidence and understanding.
Yes.
They didn't want to die. All of these things, it's all
Yes.
good stuff.
Right. There you go. Well played. Well played. That's probably why you're such a great Pilates instructor. You just stay ahead of people in their stunts they try and pull in the
I
studio.
try my best. I mean, I'm not always successful, but I would say my success record is fairly good.
Nice.
Yes.
Julie, thank you so much
for
for
inviting
joining us
me.
today.
It's been fun. Thank you. It's nice to get to know you, Misty.
Same, back at you. I hope we can connect again because this was a really great, our first chat was great too, but this is really nice. And I hope your ankle heal, all
Thank
of
you.
it comes together in a very simple way so that you can get back to doing the things you love to do.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you, lovely Martin.
In terms of like workouts, thank you. I was just saying that in terms of like any like online workshops and stuff like that, is there anything like everyone's hearing like how amazing you are and they're like, oh, I'm not in the UK. Like how
I have a webinar next week, which is for the British Horse Society, but you have to be a member of the British Horse Society to attend that. But I am then going to go into, because I've had so much interest, I think I will then rerun it myself probably the following month. And I have online courses. So if you're a trained Pilates teacher who wants to learn more about teaching equestrians mat or reform, if you go to my website, I have got courses on there that are they're webinar courses.
Great.
Thank you for asking me.
Yeah. And even are you recording the one?
I am recording it, yes. So it will be again. It's only going to be going out to the British Horse Society members because it's for their riding instructors.
Sure.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. I'm sure there's some really good content that you could use, like recycle snippets of it, etc. I'm sure Misty was going to say something on those lines too, right?
I think anything that Julie teaches, just you can tell by the depth of thought here. I think anything she teaches is going to be amazing, and I really encourage anybody who's not experienced their body in this way with a horse. I mean, like, get out there, call the local. I mean, I might not be super local, but call your stables, get out there, check it out. Because again, for us as movement people, as Pilates people, the information that you get while you're riding a horse is just information that you just wouldn't think about ever.
It's very true. Very true. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you for sharing, Julie. This is good stuff.
Thank you both. Thank you both very much. It's been lovely. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Awesome. And thank you to everyone who joined us today. And we are out.